shall go ahead and start, and then Lynda will join us in due course. So, Dennis, once you are ready, for us, we are ready, we can be ushered into the live, and then we shall start the show. Yes, we are live now. We are live now. Welcome everyone to our live broadcasting today. This is our first for the year, and we have our colleague, our friend Todd Meyer, with us in the studios tonight. And we are going to be having this very important discussion today, looking at the US in terms of religion, but also looking at how it has had great implications to the rest of the world, but also looking at Africa in particular. Today we are having Todd Meyer, as I said, and we are going to be having him taking us through what he has prepared for us today, looking into the history and the influence of religion on the US and the lessons for Africa. Todd, welcome.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Yes, thank you so much. So we shall start by getting you on board, of course, by having a little introduction about yourself to the people watching you tonight, and then we shall take it from there. Welcome, and the floor is now yours. My name is Kato Mukasa, and Todd is our main guest.
Just let everybody get a little acquainted with me. I live in the middle of the United States. I'm 59. I've lived in the same area for pretty much all my life. I have traveled quite a bit, but mostly just within the U.S. and Canada. I was a Christian for 30 years, and about 30 years now I've been a non-believer, atheist. Just in the last 5 years, I've changed my title, so to speak. I no longer consider myself an atheist. I consider myself a humanist, and I'm sure you're all familiar with what that means.
Yes.
When I did stop believing, as many would probably know, I lost a lot of friends, acquaintances, but in the time that I've been away from it, I've gained a lot better friendships like Kato and Lynda and Precious Ebenezer, and so it's only been good from that point on. I was a pretty devout Christian. Although I hadn't really read into the book, I just kind of followed along like a lot of people did. And the last 5 years, I've really gotten into it deeper and really studied the background and where it came from and what, how it all became. Today I'd like to discuss maybe a little bit about the history of the United States and how we got to where we are with religion.
Welcome, and thank you so much for that very good introduction, Todd. That's very interesting. Yes, the viewers and listeners out there, we are having Todd Meyer from the US, and we're going to be looking at the region and the history of it in the US and how it has permeated across the political, social divide within the US, but also how it has had impact globally, but also a focus on Africa. So we are going to have our guest take us through what he has prepared for us. Of course, we shall be adding more to what he's saying here and there, probably here and there, asking questions here and there to make it more exciting. So today we are having him, and then we are welcoming him to take us through what he has in store for us. Welcome, Todd, again.
All right. Are there any questions yet that have come in at all, or?
Yes, people would like to know um, uh, uh, the introduction. Why is it that, for example, some people say that the US is founded on Christian principles? It's a Christian nation. The
Sure.
founders as Christians, and people would like to know that why are people having that kind of thinking? Where does it is it true, or it
No.
has been found in secular background, but people are simply hijacking it to make it a Christian nation rather than being a secular nation?
And
Yeah,
from that point on, well, the reason they had left England to come here was because of persecution.
yeah,
The Church of England had its ways, and they had other beliefs. Still Christian, but just different beliefs on it, and they wanted their freedom. So they came here, settled. Um, Over the course of about 169 years, 13 colonies were developed along the eastern coast. And at that point, the heads of those colonies, which what we call states today, but those colonies got together. There were a little over 50 of them, and wrote up our U.S. Constitution. 39 of those people had signed it and ratified it, and it became law in 1789. Nowhere in that Constitution are the words God or Jesus or Muhammad or Allah, nothing. There's really no mention of religion in it at all at that point. It didn't actually become a thing until a couple of years later. It was decided that amendments need to have been made to this to cover some things that hadn't been covered before, that they hadn't perceived coming up. In 1791, they added 10 amendments to the Constitution, and the very first one dealt with religion. And if you're with me here just a second, I'll read, well, I'd like to tell you about our Constitution a little bit.
yes,
It starts out with three simple words: we the people. It doesn't say under God or anything like that. It just says we the people. It's really brief here. It's actually a long document, but I'm just going to read you the head. We the
yes,
people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our prosperity, do ordain and establish this Constitution of the United States of America. Like I've said, nowhere in this article is God or religion. Okay,
yes,
2 years after it was ratified, in 1791, they decided to create the first amendment to this document. That document states, and I'll read it, and then I'll go through it a little bit for you, okay? And I'm reading it off my notes because I know it by heart, but I don't want to miss a word. So, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or the press, or the right of the people to peacefully to assemble and petition the government for a redress of grievances. So what we're concerned about here is the first two, pretty much first two lines.
yeah,
Congress shall make no law respecting religion, or an establishment of religion. Congress in our government, there's two houses in our government, the House of Representatives and the Senate. They both together create our laws. They were who created these amendments. They knew from their past, from leaving England and from the disputes that they were having within their own colonies, when they mixed government and religion together, it just didn't work. And
yeah,
so That's what this is for. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, which means religion can't take over our government. Okay.
Yes.
It also says, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, meaning that one of the greatest things about this country is that you can come here from anywhere, believe what you want, and you won't have to worry about being killed or hurt or beheaded or anything like that. You have the right to believe whatever you want. And so the rest of that is pretty much just the right of free speech and to have news media, that we can peacefully protest and file grievances against our government without being hurt. So we have that freedom.
That's quite interesting. Very, very interesting, because you have explained that these are all immigrants coming from different parts of the world, so England, and running away because of their way of thinking, settling into a new area or a new place, and wanting to be free. So say the on ideas, on beliefs they were running away from. It's a very big lesson there.
Right.
Let's proceed with your teaching in the subject.
Yeah, people can come here. They don't have to worry about any or any. They might feel persecuted, but that's a religious thing. They always feel persecuted. So, and I should note too that the founders, the 39 that signed this document, our Constitution, weren't Christians. Weren't all Christians. There were non-believers in there. There were deists who believe in deism, which is believing there's a God, not anyone in particular, but that created everything and then just left. And we're on our own. And then you had your Christians, but then within your Christians, you had denominations. So differences just within Christianity. So they understood that we couldn't let any one of these become over all the others, because then we wouldn't be a free society any longer. And once that happens, we will cease to become the United States of America. This was a test, and it was the first time a country had ever done this. So it was a brave thing they did, especially being believers for the most part. So I think it's worked out great.
Yes, it did. And that's make it a secular state, a secular country. Thank you very much for that. Let us proceed. Let us proceed. Quite interesting.
Just trying to catch up my notes here.
Yes.
Are you familiar with the Pew Research Center?
Yes.
Okay, they do. I think they've been in business since '91, and they do surveys of various things for everything, and they've always kept track of the religiosity of the United States, as far as how many believe versus how many don't, and then which certain sections, like Baptist, Southern Baptists, Methodist, Evangelical, Protestant, Lutheran, Catholic. They keep track of all those numbers as to how many is in each one. It was about, I think, in their first time doing their research. Now I can't find the stupid thing. They said that, well, let's say, suppose they had learned that back in about the 60s and 70s, 90% of Americans said that they were Christian, said that they believed in a God.
Yeah.
Atheists or nuns, people who don't believe in anything, they're not religious of any kind, were probably at just a few percent. Fast forward to around the 70s to 80s, we had grown a little, but they were still in control. They still had 80%. Fast forward to today, the group of nuns, which includes atheists, agnostics, non-believers, people who just don't even think about it, is at right around 30%. That's the
30%.
biggest. That's the biggest increase we've ever had, and it's still going up. People are leaving religions. People are leaving churches. Younger people that are just coming up in out of high school and college don't want to have anything to do with it. I see a big trend of us going the other direction from what we've been used to, and it's predicted by Pew that by 2070, we will be the majority in the United States. The majority will be non-believers, and Christianity will fall below 49%. So secularism is on its way.
Right. Thank you for sharing. I've been reading Pew Review research. Often follow it and find out how things are in the U.S. and that have been showing a steady progress of the nuns, as we call them, rising numbers. And I was noting that basically the young ones, the youthful ones, who are running away from the yokes of religion. But also, I noted that the Black community in the U.S. is highly religious. And when you compare it with the rest of the community, the Latinos, the Caucasians, the others, when you compare the percentages of those in churches, there are many African Americans still embracing religion, which, as one of our followers was asking, wanted to know exactly how these African Americans were sold this kind of religion or traditions, and why it remained stuck. Is it, someone was asking, is it a way of consoling them? Is it a way of giving them a hope in a setting where they feel hope? Is this something that they take it as a stress reliever? I was wondering exactly, is it that when you look at the percentages, those who go to church, in terms of histories, ethnicities, races, the African Americans are so much into churches than the rest of the folks. And then when you look at the same research, you see that many, as I call them, are into Black communities. These were the mega churches are owned, and they are making lots of money from these people. So, what's your comment on all that? The followers, the viewers would like to hear more about that too.
Right. My community is right around roughly, I would say, about 130 to 140,000 people. Now that's between two cities. We're actually right next to each other. We're known for making John Deere tractors in the United States, and the other side, the other town is known for its university. And between the two cities, we have about 130,000 population. Of that 130,000, 17% of them are African American. Of that percentage, I would say probably about, if my data was right, probably about 9 to 10% of those, it'd be probably 80% of that group go to church and attend. And I think that holds well with wherever you go in the United States. there's a big following in the Baptist churches, and I've actually worked in a bunch of them here, and talked with the people and the pastors and stuff, and yeah, the churches are full. They're not leaving as quickly as the whites or any other race, I guess you would say, but I think it's harder for them because of poverty, of their past, of the way they've been treated as they've come through the U.S. from the day they were brought here to the day they today. That's real common in the United States. So we're not a whole lot different than you are in Africa in that regard. But I mean, it is better for them here. They do have rights and stuff and whatnot, and they have better paying jobs and so forth. But they're still, when you compare them to the rest of our country, they're maybe making it 70-80% of what we are. It's just, there's still work to be done here. We're working on it. So I was trying to look up the number of nationwide Christians, but I'm not finding it.
Yes. And then when you look at the politics of the country, still one of the our followers online would like to know, when you look at the politics of the country, how come that many politicians basically use the religious card to win hearts and souls of people in America, yet hoped that people would go beyond the religious sentiments. But still today, we see people are abortion. Remember the famous case law that has been reversed, that now we see the progress towards having abortion legal is taking the back seat in a country we would have hoped to be the cornerstone, I mean, the people of human rights protection, So people are wondering, how come that religious people are having so much influence on politicians in the U.S. today? We see politicians like Trump having been using the religious card and many others. How come that they still have lots of impact? Religious people still have lots of impact. The churches, the pastors, lots of impact on the politics of the country. How can we explain that?
I'm not hearing you real well. Just give me the last question there. Give me that last question.
Last one, yeah. How come that religious leaders in the U.S. still have lots of impact on the politicians, to the extent that during campaigns, they move along religious sentiments and they affect policy making, that even court cases that people said to have legal abortions are getting reversed in today's America.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Our mayor here in town is an African American. Our population is only 17%, but our mayor is been the mayor and he was reelected, so he's on a second term. And I think he's not done as much as he could. I think he's a little worried that he'll appear to show favoritism that direction, and I wouldn't care if he did. They need help. The churches and I don't know. It's no different really here for their churches as it is anywhere else. They prey on the weak. They get their people from the lowest points of their lives and get them in. They make tons of money off of them, and it's kind of sad because I heard once that if a pastor needs help, we donate money to the cause, and if some congregation member needs money, let's pray for him. you know.
Exactly.
So, and that's kind of the way it is here too.
So, one of the things which we have observed over the years is the influence of Pentecostalism or the born again movement, which originally can be traced from the U.S.A. and the born again movement and how it has had a great influence on Africa per se. When you look at the biggest churches in the U.S., Joyce Meyer, Cliff Dollar, and all those other preachers, there are quite many. They are the richest preachers in the world, having
Right.
the biggest ministries in the U.S., but also spreading across the world with their own churches, spread wings,
Yeah.
having private, the way they are having influence on, say, Nigeria, because the rest of the world, especially in Africa, people going to the gold business are copying from what their American colleagues do. In fact, in countries like Uganda, fashionable for pastors to move to the US, be there for a month or two, learn the art of doing business, the art of conducting prayers, the art of studying
Right.
miracles, and then putting the same technique back home in Africa. So we always wonder, what are the activists in the US doing about all these miracles we see made by pastors? The fraudulent acts of pastors asking for money to buy private jets, selling miracles, selling the prosperity gospel. Is there any way that the American people, the American activists uh, have done to check the exit of these pastors in the US, or they have left them to do what as they want? I think
Yeah.
any movement expose charlatans that expose these miracles, their performances in the US.
Right. This is just a little embarrassing because, and let me explain something that all our churches are nonprofit. Okay, just like any other nonprofit organization would be. They don't have to pay any taxes. They don't have to fill out any paperwork. They don't have to be responsible or show their books to anybody. So they can do whatever they want. Now,
Yeah,
there is an amendment we have, the Johnson Amendment, where they're not supposed to preach from the pulpit about who to vote for and hold one candidate up over another. They're supposed to stay completely out of politics, but they're doing it. And nobody's saying anything. And we still have this uh, respect for religion and their beliefs because everybody has the right to believe what they want. But these guys are pushing it. I agree. The greed in the Joel Osteens, those kind of guys that have $1 million mansions, and it's just crazy. Their congregation buys them jets so they can get
yeah.
around. Um, yeah, it's sad, and yeah, people are going to Africa and they're doing this thing there too. Um, I know my friend in Nigeria. He he's surrounded by churches. So, I
Mm.
mean, they're everywhere and they're all in the poor communities. So, um, there really isn't any real activism going on against that. Uh, it's kind of funny that, and I brought this up to somebody yesterday. A lot of the Christians don't criticize uh, those people because they don't want to make religion look bad at all. I mean,
Yeah,
I know it looks bad, but they've got thousands of people in their congregations every day, giving them millions of dollars. And that should look bad, and it does. But for some reason, Christians aren't speaking up about it. They're not saying that's bad and that's not us. And you would think they would want to, but it just don't see much of it. We do have people that I'm working with that do what we can in Congress and in lobbying and talking to legislators, but it doesn't go very far because most of them are Christians, you know, and they've got their own pet projects and their own churches and their own, you know. Um, I'd say the number one thing wrong with the government of the United States is that a number of years ago, they enacted a thing called Citizens United. And with Citizens United, businesses can be considered a person. And usually people can only donate to any one candidate in a political cycle, maybe $12,000. But a corporation can get a super fund or a super PAC. They can raise money for the candidate, and as a company, they can give them millions of dollars. So that's why you're seeing our elections hitting near $1 billion to have these elections, is because that's where all that money's coming from. Well, is a politician going to listen to me? No, he's going to listen to the corporate guys that have his pockets. And that's the way our government's been ran for the last 15, 20 years. And I don't know how we'll ever get that out of there. But those are the same people that are letting preachers preach from the pulpit for whatever political party or person they want. And I don't know. I'm just beside myself. I'd like to be able to do more, but I'm one, we're just a few people. There is a group that I'm a part of. It's Interfaith Alliance. It's a national organization. And every state has their own chapter. It's pretty much all different religions together. And their main goal is to fight against a lot of this stuff, especially this nationalism that's trying to happen right now, Christian nationalism taking over our government by the evangelicals. And I'm sure you guys have heard about our Capitol riot on January 6th, a year or so ago. That was the evangelicals. If you saw anything from the crowd out front, you saw a lot of Jesus signs, you saw a lot of praying, a lot of So they are fighting against stuff like that, and they are getting into the legislative bodies and pushing some things. So we do have some going there. Hey, Lynda.
Hi there. Hi.
Thanks for being
Good to see you. Hi, nice to see you, Todd.
You too.
Sorry I'm late, but we had no electricity in South Africa. It's back now, and it's a very, very, very hot day here today. But it's good to see you.
It's kind of cold here. Right now, it's about 2 degrees Celsius, or 2 degrees below 0 Celsius.
Goodness. Well, it's opposite.
It's supposed to get like 2 degrees above Celsius, which for us, that's not a bad winter day. Okay, usually we're 30 below.
Wow.
So it's
Would you like some of our African heat?
No, we'll get that in the summer. We'll get that in the summer.
It gets hot there, I know. Super.
Yeah.
Oh, it's lovely to see you again. Thank you for joining us. I know it's early morning there for you, isn't it?
Just a little after 8 o'clock.
Okay. Yes. Great. And it's now, well, it's 4:30 South African time.
Yeah, I should say, 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yes. Great. Well, it's good to see you. Hi,
too.
Kato. How are you doing? Yeah.
I'm fine. Thanks for joining us. I had briefed about your being late on the show because of the electricity challenges in South Africa.
Yes.
For the last 2-3 months, you have been having these troubles.
For about 12 years, actually, but it's got worse lately.
Wow. So we are very good with Todd, and he has been taking the religion in the U.S. We have talked about it's not a founded country as people may want us to believe, and being a country formed on secular principles by people from different walks of life, different backgrounds coming together to bridge the gaps and build a country for themselves. We have also talked about the generosity and percentages. He has been taking us through uh, certain percentages being so much involved in religious activities, how this has affected them. When you joined us, we are looking at the Pentecostal movement and how it has affected the US,
Yes.
but also in Africa. He had just mentioned about Joy Austin, and had also mentioned about a few other pastors who are big billionaires, millionaires.
Yes, they are.
In the country. I wanted to mention actually a few names like T.D. Jakes. I grew up listening to his sermons, watching him on TV. T.D. Jakes, Kenneth Copeland, Chris Dollar, Ben Hinn, Rick Warren, Bill Graham, Pat Robertson, Enoch Adeboye, who's also based in the US now, Joyce Meyer, John Haig, Jesse DeFantis, Eddie Long, Franklin Graham, Noah Johnson, Eddie Macedo, Charles Gregg, and so many others. These are pastors that are known in Africa and having a very big influence in the US, but also the world have ministries spreading in so many countries. They make billions of money, thousands of followers, if not millions of followers in the US, but also across the world. So we have been looking at their impact, one, on the lives of the people they serve in the US, but also on the psychological well-being of the rest of the world. And they have inspired us back in Africa. For example, when you're talking about homophobia and the gay hate in Africa, we can see that influence has because of the Pentecostalism preaching in the US, where these pastors go on their TV and preach and promote hate. And because of lack of systems in Africa, people take matters in their hands and they think it's fine to kill a gay person. But the hate being promoted on the TV stations in the US. And the hate spills over to TV stations in Africa. So that kind of hate is what we're looking at as a symbol of the Pentecostal movement that began in the US. And instead of being a positive impact, it becomes a negative impact. So I will now give it to catch it from there, share your view, then we go back to our main, and then we build it from there. Welcome.
Sure, thanks so much. Your sound is breaking up a lot, so I didn't hear all of that, but I did get the gist of it. It's really great to have Todd with us. Todd gives so much support to people in Africa. I know he is active in the Sudan and also in Nigeria, which is one of our most violent, troubled countries in Africa at the moment. Nigeria have their general elections next month, and things are not going too well there at the moment. So we really appreciate the fact that Todd he has a genuine love and interest for Africa, and he is supporting one of our African writers, Precious Ebenezer. And right. Just with the promotion of his book, which is in its second printing now, and it's just so wonderful. And I think that this is also, it just says so much about humanism and those of us who are reaching out across continents. Although we all have troubled histories in that behind us, it's like I always say to people, I'm the first one who is always outspoken about the US and their involvement with terrorist groups here and the funding that they're giving to corrupt governments and what the United Nations are doing in our refugee camps and that. And I'm also very outspoken, as you know, against the UK. But what we have to understand as humanists is that there are good and bad people in every country, on every continent, which is what we know ourselves. We are judged as a continent of African people by our military dictators and the violence and the poverty, just like we perhaps in Africa tend to look at a country like the UK or the USA and have a negative overall feeling or attitude towards them. And I think this is the thing with humanism, is that we're learning even in Africa. Every race, every tribe, every country, every religion has good and bad people. And it's the same as all over the world. I think at the end of the day, it's going to be the everyday people like you and I that are going to be the ones that are not in our generation, but in future, that are going to hopefully unite the world, because our governments are all in it for the money, for the power, for the ego. We are just normal people. We're in it for people. And I think that this is what is so lovely, is that at the end of the day, it's about the good people in every part of the world reaching out to each other. And I think that this is just wonderful, because also, we have a good connection with a lot of humanists in the UK who are doing a lot of wonderful work here with our humanist schools. And, we've had so much damage here from religion, from the Christian religion, from the Roman Catholic, and from the British colonization. So the fact that we've actually got British people that are here putting money into humanist schools and rebuilding in a way some of the things, the damage that has been done. And we're not faultless ourselves as African people, obviously. And then, of course, we have the horrific transatlantic slave trade, with so many of our people, especially our West African population, ending up in places like the US and also Caribbean and that. And I just think it's so wonderful that through the generations we are uniting across the ocean. And we are helping each other. And I just think that that's wonderful. And I think that all of us today are in situations we're in because of religion. I know that when it was about 20 years ago that most of us as children, we questioned religion, but it was very, very strictly controlled in Africa. Most of us were still under colonial rule. We didn't have internet or anything, none of us did in those days. So we couldn't actually get any information. Basically, I would be sent to have extra meetings with my pastor to answer questions that I had.
Yes,
A more
Lynda.
faithful child of God kind. We certainly weren't taught anything at school. We couldn't go to libraries. There were no books in the libraries to do with anything except religion. It was only years later as an adult, and I was working in an extremely remote part of East Africa for many years of my life. So we only had satellite phones and no internet. Actually, eventually had a chance. In Africa, we started with Atheist Republic, which is the world-renowned atheist group. And that is actually where a lot of us as African atheists started to realize that what we felt was also being felt by people overseas that also didn't believe in God and also questioned God. And for me, it was through the atheist groups in America that I learned so much about the science aspects. A lot of people, especially men, I find a lot of our ex-Muslim men here in Africa, it's the science and that they learn at university or when they go out there and they start working and discovering things, that it's the science that makes them realize, this religion thing is an absolute sham. For me, it was the other way around. For me, discovering science and the whole evolutionary side of it, and I lived in places where I got to see the Sterkfontein caves and Olduvai Gorge, the site. I've been to the sites where the Leakey's excavated remains, and it's just phenomenal. For me, that was the ultimate concrete evidence I needed, as if I ever needed any evidence, was the scientific aspect of it. I think people base so much of their beliefs on the Bible, which is a fictitious, badly written book that's so dated. science to me is like what the Bible was to me as a Christian, because it's just, science doesn't have to prove anything. It's not biased. It's just what it is. So all the science aspect of it and the whole evolutionary thing and that is what I learned from going onto all the American groups and from speaking to fellow Americans. And I must say that the Americans seemed so, I mean, this must have been about 15, 20, I don't know, years ago. New. And the Americans were like, oh my goodness, they even can go out with T-shirts on saying they don't believe in God, or with atheist slogans or bumper stickers on their cars, whereas we would get killed or persecuted or pushed out of communities for that. And we thought, oh, those Americans, they're so daring. Look at them, like they've got tattoos and everything, just being open about the fact that they are not. So for me, it kind of, for the first time, I felt not so disconnected, because in those days we didn't have all the groups and Facebook and everything. Finally, there were people that thought exactly like I did, and I learned so much from the American atheist groups on Facebook, and then of course our African groups started. So I can honestly say that I don't know how you found it, Kato, in Uganda, but for me in East Africa at the time, it was the American groups that I gravitated towards and that I got a lot of my knowledge from. And from that, we started our own groups up as well, and we started, learning about our own like scientific things. And now we have a wonderful relationship with atheists all around the world, as we see with so many of our campaigns as well. We've got a lot of support from New Zealand, the US and the UK. And so that to me is like following trends. The fact that religion is diminishing in the developed first world, and Africa loves, looking up to the West and following trend. I really just hope that it actually starts, people start realizing here that the Americans, who are first world and have all the schools and the universities and everything works, and compared to here, the education, and most people are employed. There's not I know you have your own issues with poverty and that if the Americans are turning away from God, then wow, that must be, because unfortunately that's the way that the majority of the masses of our people do think in Africa, Kato, don't they? It's like if America's doing it, it's okay. It's like they've given it the stamp of approval. So I really think, but then as you say again, we've got this rise of the Pentecostal movement, and I don't think in America you have the money, rituals, witchcraft, sacrifice thing that we have here in Africa, which is very, very dangerous, because just like I see the extreme form of Islam, the jihadist Muslim religion here in Africa, this Pentecostal evangelistic movement is, these are the pastors that are telling people who witches are, and they're doing these prayer ceremonies to get rid of the witch spirits or whatever it is. This is very dangerous, because and the fact that so many of our elderly are being murdered. To me, it's almost like this that I see in the Pentecostal movement in Africa, especially in my country, Zimbabwe, is almost like the Christianity's version of the extremist terrorism thing that is terrorists are hiding behind religion to get away with a lot of their crimes, with all their crimes. And now I see that the Christian people are also in some of our areas hiding under the umbrella of religion and killing elderly people because they are supposedly witches or wizards. So that's a whole different thing, but that stems from the Pentecostal movement as well. Just like the Quran has been, they have two versions, different interpretations. The same thing is happening with the Christian Bible. So it's really interesting to hear how the changes are taking place in the States. And I think when we spoke to Todd before, just when we had a meeting with the three of us, you were saying as well that it's very rare that you actually come across religious people openly these days, Todd, in your community and that. You don't have religious weddings and on funerals aren't always religious and church based.
Well, I'm just down the street from me is a church, and they know who I am. 2 doors down from me is a pastor. He knows me. So I think when Christians realize that I'm not a bad guy, that I'm not worshiping Satan. I'm not eating babies. I'm not, all that crazy crap they come up with. I'm just a normal guy. That I care about people, my neighbors, they seem to have a hard time not liking me, because the trick I've found is that if I want to influence somebody, I try to get to know them better.
Yes.
We talk, we interact, days go by, we interact again, and then I might casually bring up church or religion, and they'll find out at that point in time that I don't believe. And they're like, "Oh my God, I could have swore you were a believer."
Yes.
And they can't get it in their head. It's like, but you're not a horrible person. Well, no, I'm not.
I know.
I'm just a person. So, if you let them get to know you as you are, without that other crap.
That's exactly it.
And then one day you just announce it or say it or bring it up somehow, or if they give you an opening, jump in there, and they have a hard time reconciling that, and they can't say they don't want to be your friend, because you become friends. So yeah,
so they're getting to know you without bias, which is wonderful.
I do have a lot of those shirts you're talking about that people wear around the U.S., and I have 2 of them that say I'm atheist and I vote. Another one that's secular and I vote. What's the big, I can't think of it. I was trying to find it here on my pad. What's the guy's name, or what's the group's name that you guys really like over there? He's very popular podcaster. He's got an actual channel, and
Seth Andrews. Is it Seth Andrews?
It's not Seth. It's not Seth. It's like him, but it's not. He's more Iranian. He talks more about the Muslim world.
Yes, that would be Atheist Republic. I'm sure because we've got chapters here.
I have one of their
we've got chapters here. Okay, it's like this. Yeah.
And when I know I'm going to go to the store, or I'm going to go to the post office, or I'm going to just be out in the general public, I wear those shirts. And just about every single time I wear one of those shirts, somebody says, "I like your shirt," just out of the blue. What I'm trying to do when I do that is to show those people that we're out here. Don't be afraid to be out here.
Sure.
The more of us that are out here, the more natural it becomes, the more accepted we become.
Exactly.
And then the Christians and the Muslims and whoever else have a hard time painting us as bad people, because so many people know an atheist, or they know an agnostic, or they know a humanist. So that's kind of been my push here in my area.
That's a great way of doing it, because a lot of the time people, it's the fear of the unknown.
Right.
They don't know, and it's here too. They think that they don't understand that we don't believe in the devil or any of those supernatural beings. So even I often get, and there aren't as many female atheists as there are male atheists in Africa. I don't know what it's like in America. On most of the groups as well, it's mainly men that we interact with, more so than women. But perhaps it's because women, with being moms and I think women are in general are more concerned about the image that they project to other women in the community and at the schools, that they put into that mold. So perhaps there are a lot of women who don't come out about it. But I get a lot of...
It's similar to that here. I think it's more a male-dominated thing. But there are women in the background. Like my wife, she doesn't believe. She doesn't call herself an atheist or a humanist or anything. She just doesn't believe.
She just exactly.
And
so that's
she gets
really
on me
good.
once in a while. She gets on me once in a while for my activism, because can't we just live our lives and let people believe what they want? And I said, well, yes, but if you look at the country and where it's going and what's happening, I can't just sit here and not say anything. I have to do something.
It's true.
And I'm one person, but if I get a couple people, then we're 3 people. And then if I get another person,
absolutely. It's so true.
Right.
It's so true. And it's not the kind of thing you can ever take a day off from, or that you want to, because it just becomes a way of life, and
Right.
it just
It does.
becomes part of who you are. Exactly.
Yep. You're always
So that's
connected
really,
to that.
absolutely, it is. I mean, I've never seen anybody in Africa, in South Africa or East Africa, walking around with any atheist shirts or anything. But once you get talking to people, you actually do realize. And most people here, they go to church and everything because it's expected of them in their communities, but they don't actually believe. There are a lot of our presidents and that as well who are atheists, but you would never know it because they are just carrying on the whole fast. But it's just, I always get, but you don't look like an atheist. And I say, what are atheists supposed to look like? I don't know if you get that as well. And it's almost like a preconceived, they imagine us to be like these heavy, like biker people with, I've got tattoos, but
kind of like,
you know,
Aaron Ra.
Yes.
They expect us to all look like Aaron Ra. Do you know who he is?
Well, he's quite a rough looking.
Yeah. Beard, long hair.
That's right.
You know.
Because you do get the atheists that are like that, but they are, as you say, in the minority. We're in every group. And me, as a single woman, I'm treated with suspicion as an atheist, because women automatically think because I don't have a God, I'm going to be wanting to hop into bed with their husbands. And honestly, there's a preconceived notion about me being godless. And they also think we don't have morals. Like, they think that we sit at home and we take drugs and we drink and we don't care about killing people and sinning because but they don't understand it's the opposite. I'm more morally correct as a person and as a mother. Obviously, I have to set an example for my children, but it's just so funny, the preconceived notion, and that is what society has indoctrinated into people's heads, which is part of the whole religious indoctrination. You've got to be a good Christian or a good Muslim, and anyone who isn't is a sinner. And you are automatically, if you don't have a God, you're either a criminal or you're an adulterer, or you're all those things that the Bible says are sins.
That's why I was trying to tell you, if you can get people to see you as a person and as a human being before they jump to those conclusions, it's a lot harder for them to change their mind, because they've learned something there. And I try to do that as often as I can.
Because we have to lead by example, because and include everybody. Yeah. Yes, Kato.
One of the viewers, someone watching us, sent a comment to me. I wanted to explain how that there's women to do abortion in the U.S. They have cited I remember that overturned in last year. Yet for the last 50 years, from 1973, when this case was decided, women had the right to do legal abortion in the U.S. Now, the thinking is that, as leaders say, that whatever America does, because America influences the world, especially in Africa, where we look at America as a big brother, when laws like the anti-abortion law are overturned and we make it illegal, it gives a signal that it's okay to take out this right. So, what is the cause of this going back to system?
I'm losing you, kiddo. I can't hear you.
I'm going to repeat that.
Okay, please. Thank you.
Yes. We are looking at Roe versus Wade, a case that was passed in 1973, where American women had rights to do abortion. And last year, this case was overturned. The ruling in this case was overturned, meaning that it is becoming illegal to do an abortion in the U.S. And someone who was following today was saying that because America has an impact on what is being done in Africa and in the rest of the world, it won't surprise him to see that many African countries are going to become even more stronger against human rights. So he was saying he had a worry and he wondered how come that America is reversing the progress they had achieved 50 years ago. Is it because of religious teaching? Is it because of populism? So we wanted to explain why now. Why are you reversing the progress 50 years ago?
Okay, I was kind of explaining how the tides are changing in the U.S. and that the nuns are growing and the Christians are decreasing. Well, they're seeing that and they're scared. Okay, they're doing everything they can to throw themselves at our courts, our Congress, our presidents, and trying to, well, we call it Christian nationalism. They're trying to take over everything they can. And it just turns out that the last president we had, which I'm sure a lot of viewers know who that was, he was able to put into the Supreme Court quite a few justices that are right-leaning, which means Christian nationalist type judges. Now, they should be impartial, but they're not. They each have their own little agendas, and that's why this push was on to get these Supreme Court justices in our courts so that this could happen. This was the goal all along, was to get rid of Roe versus Wade. They've taken away 50 years of precedent. It's been a law that it's been free to do that for 50 years, and now all of a sudden it's going away. Now, it's been left up to the states to decide, and in my particular state, it's still legal as long as it's done within 28, no, I think it's 28 weeks. But I could be wrong there. A lot of states it's 6 weeks, and a woman doesn't even know if she's pregnant at 6 weeks. She's barely finding out that she is.
Exactly.
We've got a lot of states doing what they call a heartbeat bill, which is once a heartbeat is detected, then it's off. You can't do it. Yeah, they've really set us back. Sorry. They really set us back on that front.
Really, for America to go backwards is unheard of with things like that. It's like you are only leading with those kind of things.
Now, personally, we've had an organization called Planned Parenthood here that have been doing most of all the abortions. And they have to report what they do every year to the federal government. And if you look back over their records, 4% of what they do for medical at all is abortions. The rest is safe sex information, condoms, everything, women's health, the whole spectrum. Now it's down to maybe one per state. And now women have to drive hours to go and get one. And in some states like Texas, women have to actually leave the state and go somewhere else. But Texas has made laws that if, say, I'm living next door to someone and I find out they're going for an abortion, I can turn them in and get $10,000. And they will also go after the doctor. So you pretty much have to know you're pregnant. Just tell your husband. Don't tell anybody else. And one day you take a nice little week trip to Wisconsin or wherever, Iowa, and you get it done. You come back home and nobody knows, anything about it. And a lot of people can't do that. There's people that can't afford to go a week off or 2 days or whatever and drive hours to go somewhere to do that. They just can't. And it's hitting the minorities especially hard here.
It always does, doesn't it? All over the world.
Especially hard.
people are going to start doing their own abortions, what they used to say backstreet abortions. You'll have infections, you'll have women dying who are leaving living children behind. And it is like going back in time in medicine and everything, isn't it really? Because people will not stop. It's like trying to stop drugs or prostitution or things or selling alcohol. People will always find a way to do it.
Exactly.
Because you have free will, and they will find ways around the system, but to the detriment of their own health. The whole human rights perspective comes into that, about us having our own choices over our bodies, and it just opens a whole new can of worms. And as I say, when we heard what was going on in America, there was a huge movement on our groups in Africa. Everybody was talking about it. If that's what's happening in America, what's coming to us in the future? It was a huge concern.
We do
thought it was like not true. Yeah, we didn't. We thought like this can't be really. Now this must be a mistake. But we've been pretty shocked with a lot of things that have been coming out of America lately, that have taken us by surprise as African people. It's just like, goodness me, is this America? What's happening? So that was one of the big shockers for us. I do remember it was a topic of conversation on many of our WhatsApp groups in that for a while.
Right. Yeah. It was disheartening to say the least when we heard the news, when the verdict came out. It was just. Luckily, they didn't outlaw it nationwide. They left it up to the states.
That's right, yeah.
But we have a Republican governor, and she's all against it. She's wanting to get rid of it. So, I don't know. We keep fighting.
You've got some states that allow the death penalty, and some that don't. Is that still the same? So it's similar. And the states that allow the death penalty, do they also allow abortions? Is that?
I don't know.
I just wondered about.
I would imagine they do, just because it's the ones that won't allow abortions are the ones that allow the death penalty.
Right.
And it's really kind of weird because you would think that the Christians would be all for lives, saving them however, but
absolutely. They're picking and choosing what they want to believe there again, double standards. And would you say that these states where the abortion is illegal and things are primarily Christian states or religious people? More so than it's mostly religious. I haven't heard of any atheists speaking out like as the Christians are doing. These atheists are very open to people having free choice. But it's mostly, to me, even if the people aren't outwardly religious, it seems to be very much religious driven, or they're using religion to justify why they feel the way they do.
Yep, they do that.
The morals of the Bible,
And a lot of the people that I deal with that think alike, they believe that everybody should have the right to decide whether they should have it or not. If your religion says you shouldn't have it, then don't have it. And that goes for everything. If you don't believe in gay marriage, don't get married to the same sex. Nobody's saying you have to. Okay? If those are your beliefs, we'll gladly let you follow them. But don't push them on us because we just don't believe in it.
Absolutely.
I think in this country we've been tiptoeing around Christians, trying to upset them because they still control a lot in this country.
Sure.
A lot of our you guys can't hear my cat by any chance, can you?
I actually did. I've got a cat on my table here and one there, and he actually got up and moved around.
All right. I'll blame it on you then. No, but I mean, it just floors me that they can't get that in their head, that they seem to have to want to control everybody. And that's the whole reason why we don't want them in our government. So,
or in your school system as well, because do you still have a lot of religion in your schools over there as well?
We have a lot of private schools, And now the
Yes.
big fight, at least in our state, the big fight is that the government wants to give vouchers, money to parents who want to send their kids to a private school. What they're doing is they're taking money away from the public schools, giving it to individuals to go to a private school. And that takes money away from the kids, you know. Then there again, it hurts the minorities, the people that can't afford a private school.
Exactly.
And I don't mean to just say minorities. I mean, it would bother me. My kids from my marriage before both went to a Catholic school, and I agreed to it. I was Christian at the time. My wife was Catholic and I was Lutheran, but I was okay with it at the time. But that's when I was religious, you know, and I had that mindset.
Sure.
And you know, I was one of those people that we're talking about. And yeah, it didn't take me too long after I left that, about 30 years ago, that I started realizing what it was doing to people and what it made them believe and what it made them act on. So it's made me more of a human than I ever was before.
It's so true, isn't it? It really is. And you've summed it up so well there. You feel more and you become more sensitive to things that you didn't think about or notice before. And when you're on the outside looking in, you can also see how extreme it's getting, just from like you explained to us in America, and we see it in Africa. But I think if you're in it, you don't notice what's actually happening. How you've migrated from 10 years ago from going to a pretty normal church, whereas now it's celebrity pastors and live bands and videos that you can have done and photographs taken and witchcraft and praying for protection from Boko Haram. That's the latest thing they're doing in countries now. You will go to a special church service. Everybody goes because if you go there, then you are getting protection from terrorist attacks and things. I mean, we even had huge drives here for Ukraine, and I was saying, why on earth are we going? You know, we've got enough of our own issues, but the people with what little money they had were going to these big marquee tents that were set up for the special weekend of prayer for Ukraine or prayer for rain or whatever, and the people tithe, of course, and they give money, and it's people that don't have a lot of money, but if you calculate how much they're probably giving, as little as it is per person, it's a huge amount of money that the church is actually making tax-free. And it's an absolute scam. But more so than the money scam is the mental control and the fact that it is just oppressing people further and it's making people turn away from reality. We don't think for ourselves and we don't problem solve. We pray and we offer all our problems up to the sky. And anything that happens in our lives, we put down to this entity. I failed my exam because I'm being punished by God. You failed your exam because you didn't put the work in and study for it, kind of thing. Oh, thank goodness, I found my car keys. Thank you, Jesus. You know, this kind of thing. And people just grow up, and you get it there as well. And here you see what's being used in our churches is like with the atrocities of something like apartheid in South Africa. And the people are taught, you are good people, you are Christians. Therefore, you must forgive. The Bible says you must forgive to be a good Christian. As a Christian, you need to learn to forgive your enemy. God will judge him one day. So we have a lot of people, because apartheid crimes, you know, people just, they were granted amnesty and they got away with atrocities. There's no justice. The people still don't have their land back or anything. So basically, it's okay. You're a better person because you're not fighting back, and don't worry about those people. They'll have a judgment day. And you will be given an eternal paradise in the sky one day. You'll have all the land you want. You'll never feel hunger again. You'll never know pain or poverty, or your children dying, or war, or terror. Paradise. So people just live for that. Well, I don't have my ancestral land back, but I'm going to be blessed because I am a good Christian and I am doing God's work and I'm a good child of God. And this is what is happening. And our criminals are just running free with it. And then we've got the extremist side with that, Islam. And, you know, you ask people, how can you live like this? But they are just doing it. They are suffering for God's blessing. And I say to them, there's no heaven and hell. This is our heaven. Africa is hell. This is hell. You're here now into hell. You can make it a heaven. We've got to make it as people together, and it doesn't mean we need to be violent or anything. We've got to stand up against evil that's happening here, as you have in America now as well. And you know that the hardest thing for me is with the writing work I do, and I have people that send me videos and photographs that I report and write about. And I had to watch these because I feel I need to honor the life of that person. I've had to watch some horrific torture videos from Uganda. When these people are, and some of them are just like 18, 20-year-old boys that are in torture chambers, and they cry for their mothers. They call their mothers, or they call out, and of course no one can hear them. And then they call out to their God. And as they die, or they're having their throats slit or whatever, they are praying. And I have seen this with my own eyes, and it is absolutely devastating to me to think that in the final minutes of someone's life, in a situation like that where their life has been taken, they are praying and believing in a God, and that to me sums up everything that is wrong for us in Africa today.
Yeah.
Lying there on the floor of a torture chamber, half dead, and you are praying to a God, and you're just going to go through that last bit of pain and suffering because you know that you're going to be killed and you're going to get in heaven. And that sums Africa up for me. But if those people instead could see reality and were out there standing against this and apprehending the criminals that are out there, the murderers, and putting them in prison, but instead it's just allowed to happen, and our people are praying in the final minutes of their life, and it's just that to me just sums it up, and it is heartbreaking. I just wish I could get people to wake up to what's happening here, and they just can't see it. I'm hoping with Precious, with the history, maybe when people actually see facts and evidence. But you see what we find here with the religious people, when you try to explain to them and you show them evidence of things like evolution, they can't explain it. It's from the devil. And then only God knows. God is so much greater than us.
Christianity was too. Back in the Dark Ages, Christianity was no different than the Taliban and Islam or any of those terrorists are now. They were the terrorists of that era.
Very extreme. Christianity was more extreme than Islam, and now, you see that rise again, and people they don't think. They're just, you're testing me. The devil has sent you to test me.
Yeah.
I can't answer your question. Only God can. His brain is so much mightier than a mere mortal like we are. We can't question him. It's disrespectful to question God.
Right.
One day all answers will become clear to us, and they just carry on.
Right.
I think that people who developed religion and introduced it as a control tool, I was saying to someone the other day, I don't think they even had any idea how successful it would be, because I think it has exceeded all the expectations. We've taken it now and run with it ourselves, and we're developing different branches of it with this extremism and all that. And I just think that it's I said the other day, it's the biggest, most terrorizing weapon of mass destruction that this world has ever seen is religion. It is a weapon of mass destruction, more so than any nuclear weapons or anything that have killed and affected people's lives.
Oh, yeah.
It's tragic. It's tragic for us as African people because humankind started in Africa and we did not have those religions. And we were very connected as people to nature, to animals, to the beauty of who we were as people, and in humanity, and caring for animals, and respecting nature, knowing that and watching tides and the moon, and knowing when we have to plant, and everything was just so natural, and looking to our ancestors for guidance from words of wisdom that have been passed down. Now that's all being turned into witchcraft and spells and everything. And the fact that Africa is where we were all irreligious. All of us originate from Africa. So every single person on this earth today, ancestors were godless people.
Right.
And for me, as an African, to see it so extreme here, it's just it's very, very sad.
Right. You know, we
Lynda,
actually, a week ago or so, somebody found out I was an atheist or non-religious, and so they accused me of worshiping Satan. Yeah. And I said, no,
Yeah.
you know who believes in Satan? And they said, who? I said, Christians, because I don't believe in him. Okay. Did you have something, Kato, you wanted to say?
yes. We have, it has been very interesting, I should say. We
Okay.
have short, we have 2 minutes to go. I think we should add in more 10 minutes.
Sure.
So that we can be able to conclude very well. The last thing I want to have Todd handle is the takeaway. What do we take home as people in Africa? What are the lessons we are going to learn from what we have discussed, learning from the American history, the lessons that are being conducted? What are the takeaways for people in Africa from the American perspective to you, Todd?
So you want to know what Africans can take away from today's show in regards to the U.S.?
Yes.
Just know the U.S. is not happy about what's going on with a lot of things. And there are people like me, a lot of them, that are now starting to do things and make progress. It's going to take a while to clean up after the last president and all that he unleashed. He made it okay for people to come out from underneath their rocks and think it was okay to actually say racist and bigoted things in public. People didn't do that much before him. Now they're all over the place. So yeah, it's going to take us a while to get this cleaned up. It always seems to be this way. We get a Republican in and they make a mess and we end up coming back and cleaning it up. If you look back through history, that's the way it's been. And we are busy with our own issues, but there are people like me that are looking your direction and wanting to reach out, wanting to make connections. Like Lynda was saying, I have contacts in South Sudan, in Nigeria, in other parts of the world, Australia, Nepal, just everywhere, even Islam. And not Islam, but Israel. And we're working together. We're talking. We Zoom about once a month. We get together. We shoot ideas back and forth. We try to find out what's going on in each other's country because we're so caught up in our own that we don't have time to keep up on all these other countries. We pretty much focus on Ukraine, Russia, Syria, the United States, and then whatever else is big news at the time. So, but we do get together once a month. We haven't this last 2 months, but we're going to make up for it here pretty soon. And yeah, we're just trying to grow this this movement. We're trying to get people to accept us as just human beings and trying to promote good in the world. I know for a fact that Iran does not like us, but I know for a fact that their people do. Okay. When two armies come together like Russia and Ukraine, it's my feeling that if the soldiers just dropped their weapons and walked away from each other and let the big guys fight it out, we'd have a lot less wars. Because a lot of people don't like to go to war, but they do because they feel they need to protect their country. But we just need to work on working together. We need to look past all these things that people say are holding us back, and treat each other. If we could sit down across a table with people that we're against and talk to them, if we understood their background and they understood our background, we would become two humans talking to each other, as opposed to two people shouting across the internet. And that's what I'm trying to push. I'm trying to get more one-on-one activity. I try to look out and find people that I know aren't the same as me, that are different, that have strong views. We've got them all over the place, you know, the male masculine psychology of the man rules and the women provide, you know, follows, and you know, it goes God, Jesus, the husband, and then the wife, and then the kids. And it doesn't need to be like that. There's a big growing group of people on the internet now that are calling out these masculinity problems that the men have. They're afraid to lose their job, their guns, their whatever, and it ain't like that. It's just not. It's just. So I'm trying to look for these people. I'm asking my friends to do the same. Try to find somebody that's difficult and sit down and actually talk to them. If you can, and if they won't talk to you, fine. Find another guy. But don't give up. We got to do it one person at a time. It's going to take a while. But we'll get there.
Thank you so much. That is very interesting, Todd. Thanks so much for sharing with us tonight today.
No problem. It's my pleasure.
Look forward to having you back to talk about doing good with God.
I would encourage your listeners to send in questions. What do they want to hear from the United States? Okay, do they want to know about slavery? Do they want to know about more about religion? Do they want to know more about anything? If you guys can compile some questions from people, get some feedback, shoot me an email, let me know. I can tell you anything you want to know. I'm not the smartest guy, but I can research and I can, you know, I can ask around. I would like to do one thing. How much time do we have yet?
Done, depending on
About 5 minutes, I think. Huh?
May I do one last thing? I'll try to make it quick.
Please do.
Back when I was going to be on the show in December, I sent out a request from people. All my friends were looking, and I wanted to find an African-American, male or female, didn't matter. They had to be born here in the United States, and they had to be non-believer. And I wanted to know from them, as a black citizen in the United States, as a non-believer, what their life was like growing up here. And I got quite a bit of feedback. Just to give you an idea, I got a woman in Kansas City. She was once a Christian, then later she was a Muslim, and she's now a non-believer and has been for quite a while. She raised 5 boys, homeschooled, because she didn't want them to put up with the racist bigotry and stuff in schools. You know, she's been all over the place. She actually knows your history because she's looked into it. She was telling me things that Precious was telling me. So I know she's done her homework. So there are people in this country that do know their past, going all the way back to where we originally came from. So, but you know, that was just one piece of information I wanted to share with you. I've got more for other events if you want to have me back. And
definitely, that would be wonderful.
We are going to have you back, and we'll talk more about the projects you are doing that are helping humanity. We talk about doing good without God, because someone was asking a question: does it matter if people are religious? What's wrong with religion? And people are asking the question: what's wrong with the religion? Why do we have to say religion is doing more harm than good? So when we get back, we need to look at instances when religious people are used strongly, invite people, to teach people to support more wars alongside religious and all that. We need to look into that. How dangerous, how harmful have been religious sentiments to the rest of the world as seen from the American perspective. And then we look at the good things you have done together with the supporting peace, involvement, knowledge across this globe. We need to look at when we come back for our next show. So
Okay.
I want to go to our colleague, Lynda, to sum it up, and then back to our guest, and then we will call it a day. Back to you, Lynda.
Thank you so much, Todd. It's been fascinating having you on the show and asking questions. And I think Kato and I will maybe get questions from people to ask next time as well, because a lot of people don't watch live, or they have electricity and internet issues as well. I just think that I was just sitting here thinking now that the three of us from very different backgrounds, walks of life. I'm a white African that's grown up amongst African people. Todd is everyone's an African somewhere in there because of our genes, but you're a white American, and Kato as a black Ugandan. On East Africa, I'm South Africa. I'm a woman, and you guys are men from totally different backgrounds and educations and homes. Right. But we were all brought up in religion. We were all, stamped Christian. But look at us now, different ages, different walks of life, different careers, different everything. But yet, on the things that matter, it feels like we've all known each other all our lives, because we just absolutely connect. When you say something relating to America that's happening there with you helping people or whatever, it resonates with Kato and I, who are doing different things in different parts of the world. Sure. It's absolutely the most important things in life. It's just so relaxed and easy talking with you, because it's just like I've known you forever. And Kato, we all understand what the other one's doing, and we all are adult, intelligent people. We know about the histories with racism and with our slavery and with our countries and everything. But that is not important to us, because we understand that's the past. We have to try and correct what's happening now. So there's no animosities or things. It's just like, what can we do to help each other and help? You're doing your bit in America, and we're doing what we can here. And at the end of the day, that is what the true spirit of Ubuntu or humanism is that you look after your family, and then your community, and then your town, and then the next town, as you have more people to help you and you have more resources. And I just think that this is so wonderful, because I think it just struck me while we were sitting here that the three of us who've only ever really met once online, and we've all been connected through Precious, who the Nigerians have a very bad stigma attached to them. But they're totally not at all like people think they are. That we've all been brought together by Precious, who's a Nigerian sitting in a terrorist-run country, who was also raised as a Christian, who would never normally speak to a Ugandan or a Zimbabwean, because you don't mess with the Nigerians. But meanwhile, they're just lovely people, just like everybody else. And I think that is also, and it's like, the Americans are white supremacists. But we look past all of that, because we automatically connect as humanists. And I think that is just the wonderful, wonderful thing, that we all do speak the same language. And it's the language of care and dedication to people. And it's, I care about what's happening in America, because it's people just like people here that are suffering. A person is suffering. It's the same suffering, just because it's a different country. Maybe your first world and your suffering is different. Someone is still suffering. And, so it's not a case of, it's, those are the Americans. They're not, which I think is a lot of people have that attitude towards Black Africans. They kind of think that they don't have the same feelings or emotions, or it's a terrible thing to say, but a lot of people think like that. Like, and like people are the same with animals and children and that they can't feel. But I just think that you automatically feel for people, whereas someone else would not even give a damn about it. And I think that's the beauty of humanism, is that we feel so intensely about things. And like you say, you want to help more people in that. But if every person in this world could just do one thing for one person, and I always say to people always think of it in terms of money, and nobody's got much money.
Right.
But no, it's always the people with the least and the people who have been through the biggest hardships in their life that are doing the best work. In Africa, that's what it's like for us. People that have got very, very sad life stories and have come from nothing and still have nothing are doing the most amazing work. Very often, it's not helping someone with money. It's helping them with a skill that you know that you can pass on to them, or it's helping somebody by just giving them a hug, just being there to talk and hear their problems, or to help them with a task or something. It's in the modern plasticky world that we're living in, so many people just need somebody to be there to tell their problems to talk or to give a hug. It makes them feel validated. I hear across Africa all the time, people care. People are stuck in refugee camps and in places like Nigeria where there's awful things, and Uganda. Suddenly there's someone from outside who doesn't have to pay an interest, but is. It makes the world of difference. And I say to people every day, be kind to people, even people that you don't like or that are not nice to you. Every single person has their own battle that they're fighting, that none of us know anything about. Everyone has a sad history. We've all got things that have happened to us. We've got to start being kinder to each other as humans and more tolerant, and not judging people just because you're from this country or you're from this race or you're still religious. We've got to just start being kinder. There's so much nastiness and evil out there in the world. We don't need it amongst ourselves. So I just think that this is wonderful. And this collaboration that we, Africa, are now having with you in America and with atheists over there, I think it's fantastic.
I think it's great. I would like to make one selfish plug, if I might.
Yes, please
do. It's not for me. I won't benefit from it. But Precious's book is going to be an ebook, hopefully by the end of this week.
Oh, so fantastic.
We'll be getting that information to you so you can let your viewers know.
We'll put it across.
They'll be able, instead of trying to get it shipped to them and this and that, they can just get online and they can order it. Yep, there it is.
Thanks, now, Janice. There it is.
If you're in the United States, that's me and my email address. Shoot me an email, even if you have questions about it. I'll be glad to answer them, no matter where you're from. As far as getting it to you, it's going to depend on other people in other places. So
yes.
We're still working on logistics on that part of it, but that's why we were pushing for the ebook so that it could get out via the air, the airwaves, and people could get it much easier.
People also don't like having copies of these books lying around in their homes because,
I do.
They can get into trouble for it here as well. It's rather better to have it on a phone. Kato's book as well, on Musveni, I know a lot of people, only ebook, because with a book like that, you can actually get imprisoned, in certain parts of Africa. So for people, I do think that we're going to see a lot of sales now with the ebook, because I prefer an ebook now too because of space and because it's easy just to carry on my phone or tablet, when you need to read or refer to something.
You bet.
So that's great.
Yeah, and Precious gave me some good news the other day too, that he had given a few copies of the book to the local library, and they've approved it to go on the bookshelves. So
wonderful.
You can go to the library and check it out. And that's just every little bit helps get that word out. It could
just help one person that is too scared to go and ask and has questions like we all had, and that will be something that helps them. So every single thing we do adds up at the end of the day, wherever we're doing it in the world. So that's great. Thank you so much. That's been wonderful having you.
I've enjoyed
and we will
this.
Definitely, yes, and we'll see. Most of our viewers are after the show in the 2 weeks after the show, because people watch when data's cheaper and they've got constant power supply and that. And so we'll give you feedback on that, and there might be questions coming through. And Kato, maybe when we post this today, we can actually put Todd's details at the bottom there. Okay. These
Thank
do
you
you want
so
to
much.
read that? That's the census, UK census. Okay, that's from Dennis.
Thank
There's
you
a
so
message
much,
from. Okay, Kato.
and Lynda, for the wonderful show. Todd, you did great. We enjoyed. I've got comments here. I had put on WhatsApp, so people were sending feedback. Of course,
they're sending. Okay, great.
About doing good better, what we have been doing as humanists in the US, and how it has helped Africa, the rest of the world. And I'm happy that you have shared the book. and I would like to encourage people to buy Precious Ebenezer's book. It's very important for us to understand this history, for us to know our background, where we are coming from, and then to know where we are, so that we be able to assess where we shall be. So that book I recommend, very important book, just to look for and buy. The book is titled The Untold History of the Black Race and the Fall of African Civilization. To order this book, you free to contact Todd Meyer, and the email is right there. Also, you can contact Lynda, and shall be to ensure that you get a copy of this book. We shall be having more here to share more about books in the US, and then talk about doing good better without religion. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you much for having me here tonight. Lynda, Todd, any parting for you, from you to us and viewers?
All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Kato. You were breaking up a bit. And thank you to all the people that are viewing us from America today. Come in and connect with us on the groups, and let's have a collaboration between African and American atheists, and let's talk and get to know each other and see how we can help each other. It would be nice to meet you also. Thank you for your support as well. Thanks, guys, and we'll see you next week. We'll be putting the advert out for the show, and we'll chat. Kato will talk with you as well about for next week. So great. Super. Right, enjoy the rest of your weekend. The rest of your day. It's evening here for us in Africa, and you're just starting your day there. So have a wonderful Saturday.
All right. Well, thank you very much for having me. Thanks, Kato. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much. Bye.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah.